Good morning, everyone. Good morning, classmates. Good morning, sir. So my name is Melissa Trinidad-Manrique, and I am your reporter for today's topic, Purpose of Feedlot Fattening. So to start with, what is a feedlot? So as defined by the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, feedlot, or also known as feed yard, is a type of agricultural feeding operation, or AFO, where animals are kept and raised in confined situations, notably in beef cattle, but also in dairy cattle, horses, sheep, goats, that congregate animals, feed, manure and urine, dead animals, and production operations on a small land area. So the feedlot sector represents an intensive production system with the goal of growing and/or fattening ruminants until they reach desirable slaughter weight. So the main purpose of feedlot is to make it possible for animals to reach marketable or slaughter weight as efficiently as possible, even in adverse weather conditions or frequent dry seasons, while delivering a highly valued meat product for both domestic and export markets. And that is as defined by the American Meat Science Association. So this happens through providing a steady, high-energy diet, managing the cattle to minimize health problems and stress. So there are two categories in feedlot. First one we have the backgrounding and the finishing. In the backgrounding phase is typically the first 90 days after arrival from ranch. It focuses on feeding high forage, low grain rations with the goal of maximizing growth and minimizing fat deposits. So in this phase, the amount of feed is limited so that the animal don't gain weight quickly. Then we have the second category, which is the finishing. So the finishing phase, typically the last 100 days after backgrounding. It focuses on feeding high grain, low forage rations to backgrounded animals until they reach a prescribed finish fat cover before marketing for slaughter. They are fed with a more energy-intensive diet to gain weight rapidly just before marketing. And we also have a third category in feedlot, which is the background to finish feedlot. So some ranches have their own feedlot facilities where cattle are bred and finished for slaughter by the same producer, but this is actually less common compared to backgrounding and finishing. Types of feedlot. So outdoor feedlot is a large outdoor pen in a soil surface suited for drier climates. Then we also have the indoor feedlot. These feedlots are most commonly ventilated naturally through open sides and ridged vents. So in wetter climates, indoor feedlot functions to keep animal feed and bedding dry. So this is an example of an outdoor feedlot where animal manure or cattle manure directly goes to the soil surface. So in a Philippine setting, the most common type of feedlot is outdoor since we have drier climates all throughout the year compared to other countries. And also, some outdoor feedlot provides roof for cattle to provide protection from too much heat and also from rain, just like what we can see in the picture in the presentation. Then we also have the indoor feedlot. As mentioned, indoor feedlots is recommended in wetter climates for protection against snow or heavy rains. It usually has slatted floors so the manure can fall through a holding pit. It also has solid or curtains in sidewalls. So the main difference between indoor and outdoor feedlot is that indoor feedlots are much smaller and hold fewer cattle per pen but a higher stocking density. With the exception of these features, indoor and outdoor facilities are very similar, just like with goat and sheep. So advantages of feedlot. As feedlot production is very efficient, less land is required to produce the same amount of meat. Less stress is placed on the environment and less greenhouse gas emissions are produced. It also helps increase productivity for cattle producers and inject cash into rural economies through employment. So since feedlot provides ration, forage, and concentrates for animal feed, it does not require a vast area for production. So even with the advantages aforementioned about feedlot, there are also controversies or disadvantages in feedlot production. So the first one we have, according to the Animal Welfare Institute of the United States, or AWI, it is stated that welfare issues can include injuries during handling. So during backgrounding phase, welfare or injuries during handling can be associated with a revaccination as well as increased morbidity due to the stressors related to transition from ranch, where they can move freely, to a confined facility. Welfare issues are predominantly related to the high concentrate feeding. So during the finishing phase, since the ruminants or the animals are designed for grass and not for grain as feeds, the animals experiences problems in their digestive system. So some of these are the free gas bloat, acidosis, liver abscesses, laminitis. And because of those diseases mentioned, therefore, the animals are also fed with daily rations of antibiotics. Feedlot versus pasture. So since we already know that feedlot is an agricultural feeding operations where animals are kept and raised in a confined situation with the main purpose of helping the animal reach a certain weight as efficiently as possible. Feedlot versus pasture. The main difference between feedlot and pasture-raised animal is the main source of feed based on calories the animal are eating. For feedlot animals, the main source of feed is grain, whereas a pasture-fed animal's main source of food or feed is forage. So this is a picture of a cattle foraging in a pasture area. Same with the goat. So grass-fed beef versus feedlot beef. So what is now, or let us discuss now, what's the difference between the taste of the grass-fed beef. So these are the beef or the cattle that has been produced in a pasture area where they can freely roam around in a paddock, versus the feedlot beef, which is in a confined situation or raised in a confined situation. The grass-fed beef certainly tastes different. So grain-fed beef is prized for its fat, its consistency, and its smooth texture. So the grass-fed steaks also have a much more mineral-heavy taste that is often described as meatier or gamier. Because grass-fed beef, their diet is not as intensively managed. Grass-fed animals produce more complex and nuanced flavor. Profile meat is leaner and less intensively marbled. It is also said that the grass-fed steaks can be noticeably tougher than grain-fed. So it is tougher because pasture-raised cattle gets plenty of exercise, resulting to thicker muscle fibers, and they also take longer to finish. While there are outliers, the majority of Americans seem to prefer the sweeter, richer taste that comes with grain-fed beef, or the beef that has been raised in a feedlot. So to show you the reason why it is preferred by majority of the Americans, it is because of the fat in between the meat fibers. As you can see in this picture, the picture on the right, that is the animal that has been raised in a feedlot. So because of the fat in between the meat fibers, also known as the marbling, that makes the meat juicier, tastier, and more satisfying compared to the grass-fed, where, as you can see in the picture, there are not much marbling in this piece of meat or beef. So that's all for today. So thank you so much for listening, and muchas gracias.